Assalamu alaikum dear, myself Muhammad Ismail and I am doing software engineering. Today we will start a new playlist which is about object oriented programming, and today's topic is all about classes. So what is a class? The most important feature of C++ programming language is that it supports the object oriented programming. And OOP, the computer program, is divided into object. OOP is easy and flexible approach for designing and organizing the program. If someone asks you what is OOP, so you have to answer it is the approach for designing and organizing the program. The program is designed by using classes. In this chapter we will discuss about the concept of object and classes. So how to define a class? What is a class? A class is a collection of data and functions. The data items and functions are defined within the class. It may be inside or outside in the class, or maybe in another class. We can create multiple classes at the same time. So the next slide is memory. So how we can allocate memory for a class? Unlike the variable, when we declare a variable, it reserves some space from the memory. But here, when class is defined, it does not reserve any space from the memory. It only defines the data items and functions. When we create a class, it doesn't reserve space from memory. It only defines the data items and functions. Data items mean the attributes and functions, the behavior of a class. Here I am considering
music
that you have a knowledge of fundamentals of programming. If you don't have, please go to my other playlist which is about all the fundamentals of C++. So here we'll feel the similarities between the class and structure. You will feel the class and structure similar, but there is a slight difference. The syntax is also about the same. So if you forget the structure, just review it by visit the card on the top left corner. So go to my channel and learn about the structure. So the next slide is definition of a class. A class is defined as a similar way to a structure. The keyword class is defined to class is used to define a class. As you can see it, here is an example. Class is a keyword and class name is the name of the class. So we can define a class like this, as you can see on your screen. So in the middle of the class, here we can define the statement of functions, attributes, access modifier. We will discuss it in the future. So note, here in the last of curly braces you have to put the semicolon. It's compulsory, otherwise the compiler will give you an error. So what is a member of a class? As we know that a class contains data items and functions. Class is a combination of data items and functions. These are called member of a class. The data member are called data member. The attributes, it means the attributes is called data member, and the functions, the behavior of a class, is called member functions. So the next slide is data member. In the previous slide we discussed about data member and member functions. So here I select the one data member. In a previous slide we discovered that the data items are called data member of the class. Here is an example. A class that has 4 integer type and 2 float type of data is called data item. Here as you can see, class test class is the definition of a class, and the float xy is a attribute. So that's also called the attribute, as we already discussed. Member of function. The function of a class, it may be inside or outside in a class.
Music licensing
That work on the data member are called member functions. The behavior of a class is called member function. As you can see in example, there is an attribute, and in class you can see in the curly braces, and after the curly braces there is semicolon, and void input data is a function which explains the behavior of our class. So the next is also a function, void friend, which will print all the values of a, b and c. In input function we just assign value to a, b and c. So in the next slide we will explain member access specifier. So what is a member access specifier? It is a constraint. Constraint means restriction, in which we define that our data member attributes can be accessed outside from the class. From this we have access specifier. Don't afraid from the name, it is just like if you are 18-year-old you are adult, otherwise if you are not 18-year-old you can't marry. Here, with the help of private and public keywords, we define the attributes from where it is accessed. So with the help of access specifier, we just restrict our attributes or functions that it must be accessed from the class or outside of the class. The private field attributes can only be accessed in the class, inside the class, or public can be accessed from outside or inside both. So note, private members are not accessible for outside of the class. For example, if we have one class A and the other is class B, so if there is a field of access specifier private for int A, so we can't access it in the B class. For this we use constructor and getter and setter. We will explain it in the future. So here is the class, test class is the name of the class, and the keyword class is used here. So in the last, as you can see, it's totally define our class. Now here is the specifier private and public. Int A, B, C is a private field, so we can't access it from other class. And the functions, member function is public, so that we can
music licensing
from the other
reimagined.
class. There is a two method or functions, which is input and print method. So what is object of the class? Object of the class is, as we know that data type is used before the variable. The data type is also known as instance of that data type. Each variable is a unique name. Whenever we declare a variable, it reserves some space. As I already mentioned, if we define a class, it doesn't reserve space. But for that, if we have to store something, we create object for that class so that it reserves space for our data. So here, to allocate space for class, we create instance, and that instance is called object of that class. A class contains different data items and functions. So to reserve space from the memory and access the data items and function, we need to create object, as I already mentioned. So here we learn the concept of encapsulation. If someone asks you what is a data encapsulation, so you have to answer the combining of both data and functions. Object represents member of a class. Each object of a class have unique name, so it's mean we can create multiple objects of the same class but different instance. So the next slide is declaring object of a class. The object of a class are declared in a similar way as variable of any data or structured data type. Here is a tip. If you want to learn something and didn't know how to memorize it, then compare it with some other thing. So here you can, as I already mentioned to you, you have to read before start this course, the fundamental of C++. So the object of a class are declared in a similar way as the variable of any data or structured type data. When a class is defined, no space is reserved, as I already mentioned. It only provides the information how its object look like. When object of a class is declared, a memory space is reserved. Here is the syntax: class name, instance, test object.
Music licensing.
How to call a member function. Member function of a class is called in a similar way as member or data item of a structure is called. The member function is called by object using dot. So what do you mean by that? We have to just write down the instance, and then after that we have to use the dot operator, and we will see all of the data and functions of our classes by matching object. Here is the syntax: instance dot member test input. So let's move ahead toward its implementation, and we will look all of these topics: defining a class, member function, member of a class. As we discussed all that in the theory, now we need to look about its implementation.
Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined. Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined. Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined.